Hello all. It's February 1st, 2021, and this is issue 1 of The Index, a video blog podcast of the Toledo Unitarians. I'm T.K. Barger, the congregation's senior minister and the editor of The Index, and I bring you 500 words of introduction to our publication. We gave you a brief preview, what we called issue 0, on the 1st of January. The Index doesn't have a set schedule for when new issues will come out. They'll be posted as they're ready, and while I hope we develop greater streaming competence. Issue 2 could come as soon as tomorrow. Check this YouTube channel, and we hope there won't be too long a delay regularly, though a month or two without a new entry is possible. I ask that you stay tuned. If you haven't already, subscribe to the Toledo Unitarians channel so you might get notifications when we post new Index issues. For issue 1, we begin the Index with a rerun. It seems appropriate. First, with the title, The Index, we're using the name of a publication that started 151 years ago and that has ties to a congregation in our ancestry, the First Independent Society of Toledo. And like that index, which was edited by the Independent Society's minister, Francis Ellingwood Abbot, this index will be a publication on what Abbot called free religion and then came to be known as liberal religion. But we'll also cover more ground, I expect, though I could try to make a point that anything in here will be linked to liberal religion. Second, an index is kind of a review of contents of a publication, more precisely where in the publication to find relevant details, and we're not so direct today. But the first issue of a publication won't ordinarily have a pre-existing index. However, we can go to an earlier effort for some content for this rerun and bring it into this index. Third, the rerun is a video made on my first workday, February 1st, 4 years ago, as the full-time called and settled minister of First Unitarian Church of Toledo, the Toledo Unitarians. The conversation still seems relevant to me. If my interview partner, Abbot Rinsen, wishes to update, we could do that. And I know he's viewing this index issue. One update is that the Buddhist Temple is in the midst of construction on a new building in Toledo for it to settle into. Fourth, history will be a regular content in this publication, as we can explore the original index, which started in Toledo on January 1st, 1870, and about 3 years later moved to Boston. And we can go into the Toledo Unitarians archives for some local stories. We're not only about history, though. And finally, fifth, starting with a rerun might indicate that we won't be so traditional, that our perspective is not always the norm, and that we're in a place where we can look back as we move forward. Welcome to the Index.
All right.
So we're
Rinsen.
Hi.
We are actually recording now.
Is this going to be it?
It might be.
It might be.
We'll find out.
Okay. Hey.
Yeah. I want to say hello.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, I'm Reverend Tim. This is Rinsen. I'm, as of today, the minister at First Unitarian Church of Toledo.
Yeah.
Rinsen is the abbot of the Greater Heartland or Great Heartland Buddhist Temple.
Yeah, it's the Great Heartland Sangha. That's the name of the overarching order, I guess, or the community, and it's the Buddhist Temple of Toledo. So eventually there might be Great Heartland Sangha, Buddhist fishing dock of Catawba or something. I don't know, but
Yeah.
but right now that's what it is. Yeah.
And the reason Rinsen is with me is he does a weekly Abbot's Address by video. And a long time ago, he suggested to me, you might try that yourself. And instead of just outright stealing his idea, I thought I would invite him to witness my stealing his idea for this first thing and to give tips as needed as we start. So here we are. I want to say one thing about our atmosphere here, our setup. We are in the sanctuary at First Unitarian Church, sitting in the front row of the pews. My idea for that is I used to be the religion editor for The Blade, and I went to many, many churches to write stories about the churches and their clergy and that type of thing. And when we assigned photographs, the chances were that we would end up getting a pew shot. The minister with the pews behind. So here we go with the pew shot. It's kind of a standard cliche, it seems, in religion news photography. So here we go. I'm starting with the cliche.
Theft all around.
Yeah.
Congratulations, that's great. Because really, you know, that's what we do. Actually, in the Zen tradition, we say that, you know, no one can give you the Dharma, but you can steal it. And so the idea is that, you know, if you are with friends and spiritual mentors and guides and things, really the only spiritual insights that we can rightfully claim or have any access to are the ones that we discovered. But we don't discover those completely randomly. You know, there are patterns, there are mentors, there are guides.
Yeah.
You know, so for example, I got the idea for this from President Obama. He did an address on YouTube, and I thought, well, damn, that's pretty cool. You know, like I could actually watch him every week and see what he was thinking and what was going on and everything, and that inspired me, and I thought, oh, I'm taking that. Good. And now that our current president is so active, it inspires me to be really active too. You know, I'm thinking, this guy, he's working all the time, and guess what? So am I now.
Yeah.
Even more than before. So
Yeah.
we take wisdom where we can get it, huh?
Yeah. Getting engaged through our religious theologies, philosophies, orientations to be engaged in the world and making social change as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So is this your first ever like full-time ministerial gig?
This is my first, yes.
So what scares you, if
well,
anything? I mean, about it.
I don't know what scares me because I have put a lot of work into getting prepared to be a congregational minister.
Sure you have.
Many years of seminary, many years of training. Even when I was a religion editor, since I got to pick the stories, I would investigate some things that I knew might be of use to me here, such as when a church is redoing its communications aspect and something like that, I say, hey, instead of my paying a consultant, what did you learn?
You got a smart minister here. That's great.
But I did want to ask you, as you have been the abbot of the Sangha, and your spouse Doan is also a priest there.
Yeah.
What have you run into in terms of congregational leadership that perhaps you might want to pass along tips or cautions?
Well, I tell you, we have a mutual teacher in common in James Ford. Right?
Yes.
I know James Ford as Roshi. He's my transmitted Zen teacher, and
I know him as James, as a Unitarian minister who was the minister in residence for my first semester in seminary.
That's right. That's right.
And he was my academic teacher for a Zen Buddhism course.
So I remember earlier on in the experience, of course, we're starting a congregation from just seed all the way through, right? But there I was, and I would be doing everything I can do to connect with every person that's there. And guess what? I failed. You know, it seemed to me that no matter what I did, there was just some people that I couldn't make the connection with, or the things didn't work out as well as I would wish them to. And I remember a specific conversation with James when he laid down some data on me, which was really helpful. He said, you know, here's the deal. Studies have shown Okay, studies have shown that in an average congregation, and this is Unitarian data, okay, but in an average congregation, something like 7% of an average congregation at any given moment will not be utterly thrilled with the pastor, minister, person in chief. Kind of no matter what. And he really emphasized that with me. Like you could rotate 3, say 5, maybe 7 completely different personalities and packaging and theological leanings into the same congregation over time, and statistically you'll have something like 7% of them not like it. And I thought, well, that's really interesting, you know, and it alleviated some concern for me, thinking that if, you know, there was some flaw in what I was doing. And he said, you know, the fact is that, look, you know, what you're doing may just simply not resonate with this person, and it's not a problem. You know, the best thing is for them to go ahead and find the thing that does resonate, you know. So what I found was that, you know, I kind of have been keeping track in a kind of a funny way, you know, because I care deeply about everybody. I really do. I fall just a little bit in love with every person that comes into Zendo, and I really, you know, I'm very vulnerable that way. And so I do consider, you know, the folks that over the years now, there's been, I don't know, 16 or so, something like that. But actually it comes to be, you know, it actually is about something like 7%. And the thing that's interesting to me is that if I was getting numbers more like half, then this would be a problem. This would be a clear signal to me that something's not jarring right, you know. And by the way, I'm not talking about folks that just decide, oh, I'm not into this anymore, but people that walk with intention, right? And like, you know, maybe you're doing your best to knock yourself out to help these folks, and they leave thinking what a fool you are. Maybe they're smarter than we are, but so be it, right? But that's something that's been very helpful to me. And like, I know now that every time a new class comes through, that, you know, I'm doing everything I can to connect these folks with the practice and with the tradition that we hold dear. And guess what? Not everybody's going to love everything that I decide.
Right.
And it's kind of a lonely place to be kind of at the helm in a certain way. You know, that there does come this bottom line kind of thing where it's like, well, that's what the sermon is, you know, and okay, that's what you're going to have to get up there and say. And so peership with other ministers is a really valuable thing, you know. And I think, frankly, in Zen, that's one of the diseases of the Zen tradition, is that the early adopters, they would be isolated. You get transmission, you're a recognized teacher, and they would just kind of go off and be surrounded only by their students. And I see the Unitarians having great many correctives to that, that I'm fortunate to have inherited from James. So I guess that's one thing, you know.
My spouse, Jewel, she spoke a little bit, as you were talking about the 7% that came from James. What she had learned from another minister was really gets to the bell curve. That there are 12.5% on either side who just aren't going to like whatever you're going to try to do. And but that's a solid 75% that you can get within your area of influence, if I can put it that way. Kind of the middle path in a way.
So is it actually like 12% on both sides that don't like, or is it 12% that don't like and 12% that'll love anything you do no matter what?
I think that's probably more like what it is.
Because I tell you, in my other life, I'm a professor at the University of Toledo. So we do these things after every class where we assess, and the teachers, the students can assess the teacher. And now that's where we find that thing where there's basically there's a certain chunk that are going to play, or honestly are teacher's pet kind of character, where they just love everything no matter what. You discount them. There's another percent that's just are, no matter what you do, they don't like it. But what you do pay a lot of attention to is that belly of the curve. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of good correctives that can happen in there. So keeping communication open with the congregation and having opportunities for that kind of feedback and having some kind of a way of tracking it. Does this community do like an annual survey or something like that?
We do different types of things. We did some surveys and such in preparing to call a new minister. So
I'm sure,
we got a lot of
they
that.
would, yeah. Well, one thing that the Buddhist Temple does is we have our annual canvas, and then a little bit after the annual canvas is completed, then we have the annual Sangha survey. Sangha is a term for community. And that's been really useful because as the years go by, there's actually some way to track the data. And of course it's anonymous, which is, the limit there is you can't go and have a conversation with the respondent, but the advantage is that people respond without concern. And that's been a really useful thing in our community.
Our canvas, which we call stewardship, comes up in about 2 weeks.
Really?
So, yeah, we can look at the survey after that.
Gung-ho, man, you know.
By the way, I want to say what you profess at the University of Toledo is guitar and primarily jazz music, correct?
Yeah, I have two primary functions at the university. I'm in the music department, and so I teach guitar, and I teach jazz and jazz history and this kind of thing. And then I also direct the Mindfulness and Creativity Initiative, which I'm working very diligently to turn into a center there. And so I'm kind of bipolar, you know, except they're both nice. So I've kind of split between music and mindfulness, and yeah, that's what I do at the university.
Okay. I want to get into attire for a moment, and please tell me, my pronunciation can sometimes be way off. Is it rukasu?
Oh, it's a rocksu.
Rocksu.
Yeah.
Okay. Please tell me briefly about that so our viewers can know why you're wearing this mini apron around.
Yes, the mini apron. This is, if you ever see a picture of the Dalai Lama or Buddha or any of these kind of figures, you know, depictions of Buddha, they always have a toga kind of thing going, see? And I do too. If you ever come to the Buddhist temple on a Sunday service and I'm in full drag, there's this big toga looking thing, and it's
tweed toga today.
Yeah, this is not a toga. This is a sport coat, my dear.
Okay.
This, however, is a reduction of the big kesa. It's called. That's the big, and so that it's a small version. And so anytime I'm in a dharma setting or a priestly setting, I would wear this. And it's made of patched work. I don't know if you all can see this, but it's got patchwork, and the tradition says that the Buddha looked down and saw rice fields that were all interconnected and said that is the way our robe should be. And so his disciples would find discarded cloth and clean them up and sew them together. And so it's the Buddha's robe. And so when someone formally becomes a Buddhist and I give them the precepts, they receive a Dharma name, and they receive the lineage of the ancestors, and then they take on the Buddha's robe. Mm-hmm. And then on the back of it, this particular one is actually from James. So there's some writing on the back, kind of fun. Mm-hmm. And this one, interesting, is a document of transmission. This is the one he gave me on my transmission. So it says, may your teaching be a blessing to the world, you know. Mm-hmm. May it be so, and may yours.
Thank you. And I want to say I'm wearing this clergy collar today. This form I always call the halo collar because it goes all the way around. It is not above my head. I'm not that saintly to begin with. But we had a clergy function in Greater Toledo this morning with many faith leaders, and I wore this to identify myself as clergy, and also, especially for this first year, I think I'm going to wear it a little bit more just to distinguish, especially places where I used to go as a reporter, that this really does not say that I'm covering it for the news. So instead, that's the identification for this. It's a bit unusual for Unitarian Universalists to wear clergy collars. Some do all the time. Most of us don't do at all, except when we're at social justice events, and especially if we're risking arrest. That's primarily the case.
That's interesting. And what does that do for you if you're in danger of arrest and you've got a Roman collar on or what have you?
Well, It's, I wonder if for some people they're thinking it might be a get out of jail free card.
Or get there quicker, depending on the
Yes,
situation, huh?
You're under arrest, pastor, not you, you're under arrest. That's basically, I think, what it might be. But I don't know. The other is to show, yes, especially in these times of division,
Yeah.
that there are clergy members on the side of people who are seeking social justice actively. And while there are sides in many things, we try to provide space for people who want to change the world that way.
Sure. Is the etymology of that collar, is it in fact Roman?
It is not, in fact, Roman. I'm trying to remember, I don't recall exactly. Was it Presbyterian or something like that? Somebody who actually first started it, but somehow
Really?
the Catholics adopted it, and basically less than 200 years ago. And
Really?
it really started being recognized that way. Back when they used to have these starched separate collars, and it's kind of turned the collar around so it looks different. And then you've got the little notch collar as
Yeah.
well, which my dad called this the dog collar. Yeah. But the notch is the other thing. They call it tab collar, and there are a few different names for that. But they're basically all the same. And in some traditions, there is true distinction between who has what type of collar, who has what color shirt, that type of thing. With us, we're more free form about it.
And does it even hold any kind of overt Christian connotation, or is that not necessarily so in the Unitarians' case?
We are a denomination that is Christian in heritage, so we can acknowledge that part of our history. While the denomination itself and the clergy are not necessarily Christian that way, the collar itself is still largely identified with Christianity. And that's another reason why I'm reluctant to wear it all the time, because I really don't represent the solid Christian wing. I'm a religious humanist myself, and we are open to people of many faiths and to people of no faith, and atheist is not a dirty word in the Unitarian Universalist Church. So we're really a place where we recognize that everybody is on a spiritual journey. We don't have the same route or even the same destination, but we can support one another and share stories and be of help to one another when our paths meet and walk along for a while.
Outstanding.
Anything you'd like to add?
Well, I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
I really am. It's a little bit like plucking a gold ring out of the sky. Yeah, I think to actually be able to be in a place, in a position where one can serve a community, and it's a great responsibility, but it's a hell of a lot of fun too. It really is, and I'm really happy for you, Jewel. I think it's great.
Thank you.
And congratulations to this community. It's obvious your search committee knew what it was doing. Well done.
Rinsen, I bow to your friendship and to your wisdom.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for being my companion for this first video of what we hope will become a series.
I'll be checking them out.
All right. Now I'm going to walk up and turn this off.
Nice.
All right.